Hello, this is Mr. Wyrick, and today I'll be talking to you about Lesson 4.1. This is the first lesson of Chapter 4. We're delving into triangles, and the first thing that we're going to talk about in this chapter about triangles is classifying triangles. So this is pretty straightforward. You've probably heard these phrases before, but we're going to be using them a little bit more, and we're definitely going to be using them a little bit more going ahead into some proofs on triangles. The first way that you can classify triangles is to classify them by angle. If it is an acute triangle, that means all three of the angles are smaller than 90 degrees. This is fairly common for this to happen. Then there's an equiangular triangle where all three angles are exactly the same. Since we know that there's 180 degrees inside a triangle, that means all three angles would be 60 degrees. If one of them is not 60 degrees, it's not equiangular. It can't happen. There's no other measurement that's going to work for that. Then there's an obtuse triangle. If it's an obtuse triangle, then one angle of it is greater than 90 degrees. Now that could be as small as 91. So you have to be careful. You have to be sure that you look at all three angles on that triangle. And then there's a right triangle. If it has a 90-degree angle in it in one spot, because there's not enough room for it to have more than one right angle, then it would be a right triangle. Those are the four ways that you can classify them by angle. Now, you want to be as specific and as correct as possible. So if you do see an equiangular triangle, you can't just immediately classify it as acute. Acute would be accurate, but it's not as accurate as saying it's equiangular. Equiangular gives us a more specific picture. So if this is what you have, make sure to mention that. Then the other way that you can classify triangles is by side. If all three of the sides are the same, it is an equilateral triangle. Now, again, being as specific as possible is good, because if you know that it is an equilateral triangle, it is also equiangular, just the way the triangles work. An isosceles triangle has at least two sides that are the same, two congruent sides. So all equilateral triangles are isosceles triangles. So you have to be very careful. You want to use equilateral when you can, and use isosceles for the others, even though the definition is a little broad. If none of the sides are the same, it is a scalene triangle. Now, as you get into this, you'll be using both of these. So, for example, if I make a right triangle here that is a 3, 4, 5 triangle, then we know two things. We know it's a right triangle because it's classified like that, but we can also classify by side that it is a scalene triangle. If I have one of these really cool squares and I cut this right down the middle, I know these two sides are the same and that this is a right angle. So this would be a right isosceles triangle. So make sure you know when and where you can apply both of them. And of course, remember too, if we have an equiangular triangle, it is also an equilateral triangle. Once you have an understanding of these, this lesson should move pretty quickly, and this will be what you are tackling on Monday. We'll see you then.